very warm welcome to Nodesignal, your Bitcoin frequency. This is a special book club episode that we're doing in English due to us having a connection to a very special node, which is Kalle Rosenbaum, the author of the Grokking Bitcoin that we have been reading in the book club. Apart from that, we are connected with Calso.
Hi there.
And Jan Paul.
Hi.
And Chris.
Hello, Martin.
So, Kalle, do you have the block time for us?
Yes, I think I do. It's 767260.
Very good. Do you want to start by introducing yourself a little bit for those of our listeners who don't know you already and don't know you as a person? I mean, we know a lot from your book because that have been some episodes, but something about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, hi, and thank you very much for having me on this podcast. I've been trying to listen to a few of your episodes, but failed miserably because my German is not that good. Actually, I don't speak German at all, despite my last name. Anyway, so yeah, I am a developer since more than 20 years ago. I worked with software development, usual common product development. And I live in and work in Sweden. And in recent years, I started my own consultancy company. So I quit my fiat job in 2015 and has been working within the Bitcoin space ever since. And I've never looked back.
Great.
Yeah.
So did you all discover Bitcoin in 2015 or before 2015?
It was before, obviously,
okay.
but a few years before.
Awesome.
That. Yeah.
So how did you discover Bitcoin? Is there a story?
It's not that exciting, really, but I had a friend who was a technical guy, and he posted on Facebook that he had written some kind of integration for Bitcoin payments in I think it was WordPress plugin or something like that. And I just, got curious from that and probably didn't look, my memory is very vague here, but I probably didn't look at this for another few months. And then I started to pick it up. And it took me quite some time to actually get it, to understand how it works and so on. Yeah.
Okay. So it took you some time to understand it. So is there maybe something that made it click for you? Do you remember that you at some point said, right, that makes actually sense?
Yeah, I think there was one. I had read several blog posts, the white paper, and all sorts of resources. And this was before Andreas Antonopoulos' book was even available. But, yes, I was a developer, but I didn't have any knowledge of digital signatures or distributed systems at all. I was just a regular software dev working with, XML documents, more or less. But so I, planlessly browsed around for information. But I stumbled upon this site, which is, the name escaped me now. It's a YouTube channel with lots of teaching materials in mathematics and physics. And
Khan's school?
Khan Academy.
Khan Academy.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And
sure.
They had a short series on Bitcoin, on the very, very basics, on how digital signatures work and how transactions are chained together and so on. That was actually the one that made it start to click. And then, of course, I went back to the white paper and could get more out of it that way. So
was this also the reason that you thought the world might need a Bitcoin book, or what was the reason for you then to decide you were going to write one?
I think you're right there, because my book is the book that I would have loved to read when I started out.
Nice.
So basically, I wrote it for my former self.
That's so incredible, because when we started at different points in time, we already noticed this, because we started a few years apart from each other with Bitcoin. And the time when you started made such a huge difference on how fast you could plow through the basics and how much material was available. So it's difficult to imagine how to even grasp new concepts when there's basically nothing around and when certain thoughts haven't been there at all.
Yeah, exactly. The stuff that was around back then was, either technobabble or it was highly academic stuff. So it was not really approachable in the same sense. Now we have so much good material out there.
Did it feel natural to you to write a technical book and not an economical or philosophical book about Bitcoin?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was most of all technically interested and technically oriented. I had no clue about economics or philosophy or stuff like that. So I always loved, grassroots systems like Linux or BitTorrent, stuff like that. And Bitcoin kind of fell into that category very naturally. And so it was the technology that got me onboarded. But economics and philosophy and politics came later.
So you touch economics and philosophy here and there in the book. And so did that come with writing the book, or?
Yeah, I mean, it all works in parallel. It's not like I only learned technological part first and then I learned about economics and then about philosophy. It all came together, but the tech was the leading mover or the leading thing for me.
But was this, I mean, there's so much that we see in Bitcoin today on how it will change the world. When you started, was this already somehow present, or what were the discussions like?
If you read the white paper, it's already there, I think, quite a bit. He talks a lot about how the current systems is based on trust, and it needs trust to function at all. And that makes it very expensive. So I think Satoshi was somewhat of a philosopher and economist as well. And if you browse through old threads, you see a lot of these thoughts as well, but they didn't allude to me, or they didn't interest me back then as much as the actual technology and the algorithms and data structures.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the process of writing this book. I mean, I think you had a fantastic idea that you introduced these cookie token system there. So how did you come up with that idea, and how did it help you in structuring and writing this book? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the first few months of the project was very much about finding the right approach to the book. I knew it was going to be a technical book because that's where my heart was. Let's put it this way. We looked at different levels of depth in the book, whether it should be very high level, but still technical, or very low level. But we ended up somewhere in the middle, I think. And it was actually me and my wife sitting in the kitchen discussing this. How could we approach this? Because Bitcoin is like a circular system. It's a number of things that are interconnected in a circular fashion. And
it's a closed system, maybe?
Yes,
it's
exactly.
A closed interacting system. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
And it's very hard to break that up. Mm-hmm. Or rather, it's hard to, you kind of need to learn it all at once. You can't just start in one end. The only thing we could come up with was to actually start with a very basic, stupid system that everybody can understand and kind of work from there to improve it. And that's where we came up with the silly cookie tokens. And I think it's great. I don't particularly like the name cookie tokens because of the token hype that's around right now. But the concept of it, I think, is very good.
Okay, so maybe something like a voucher or something would be more suitable now that we have this token craze.
Yeah, or just, maybe. Or why not just office coin or something like that?
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Or another way would be to call it Bitcoin straight up from the start. But then we would cause confusion of what is actually Bitcoin, where at chapter 8 in the book, we switch from cookie tokens to Bitcoin. But if we would have called it Bitcoin all along, it would be unclear to the reader which is fiction and which is actual Bitcoin.
Maybe it's pre-coin.
Pre-coin, that's a good one. Yeah.
Pre-coin.
and then all the people in the office are the pre-coiners, and that kind of lines up quite nicely.
Absolutely.
So how is this process of writing a book? Because many people want to write a book, but way fewer actually do write a book. My wife, for example, she's in a writing club where she's starting to write a book herself and so on. And I see that there's a lot of different approaches on how you would actually go about it. And it's quite the struggle often to actually get something finished, especially something new. So how did you actually write the book?
Yeah, I need someone with a whip to actually keep me on track. So I'm very happy that I had the publisher who helped me, get things done. Without somebody wanting something from me, I don't do much. So since I had this publisher, they were not constantly pushing, but I knew that there were someone waiting for material. And that was a good driving force for me. I kind of need that.
How long did it take you to write the whole book?
The manuscript was done in a little more than a year, at most 1.5 years, but I think maybe 14 months or so.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the whole process took 2.5 years, because after the manuscript was done, there was a lot of typesetting and proofreading and illustrations and stuff. And all that wasn't... It wasn't a very smooth process. It took quite some time, more than a year for the production phase. And that was a really frustrating time for me, because I had, written this manuscript, and I was so excited to get it out. But the publisher, they have multiple books in the pipe at the same time, and I just was frustrated. They weren't, of course they were excited about the book, but they had other things to think about too, which, and that was frustrating.
Did you have the illustrations already in your manuscript, or were they later added after the manuscript was done?
Yeah, I made the illustrations myself first, and then an illustrator reworked them a little bit to make them look nice. They were super ugly before, but they did the job, but they were just super ugly, and that also took a lot of time, but. Because first we had an illustrator that wasn't great. So we had to replace that illustrator with another one who was great and did a great job. And we had great collaboration. And I had, a lot of nitpicking on his, but he was, responsive and did the job really, really well, I think.
So how did you go about it? Did you just wake up in the morning and say, okay, breakfast, and then I'll write my book for 2 hours, and then I'll go to regular development work, or something else?
Yeah. So at some periods, I didn't have another job or I didn't have a client for some periods during this time, which was great. And during some periods, I had clients to take care of in my business. But I had very busy times and times with very low intensity. I remember when I have a whiteboard besides my desk here, and when I started writing, when I write, I follow a little checklist that I have on my whiteboard, which says, before I start writing, grab coffee, pee, remove all unnecessary tabs or windows from your desktop, and a whole bunch of things like that. So doing this actually helped me quite a lot to clear out my desktop and make my body ready for work.
Focus.
Yeah. Yes, because I'm a terrible procrastinator and yolk shaver. If you have heard the term yolk shaving. Yeah.
Never heard.
I haven't heard it.
Okay.
No, really
yeah, it's like
procrastinator.
Yeah. Yolk shaving is, the animal yolk is a big hairy cow.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead of doing useful things that you are supposed to do, you go shave a yak instead.
Nice.
Okay.
It reminds me of my work, actually. I was just discussing today with a colleague of mine who got introduced last year as a Christmas present for me, actually. I finally convinced him. And he took the stance to say that it will not be as effective, so Bitcoin overall, if not everyone is technical skilled and not everyone is able to use it in that technical form. Do you think everyone should read your book? And do you think this is how Bitcoin will succeed? That everyone in the end will kind of be a technician a bit?
I think that's a super good question. I think, of course, not everyone can understand the technology behind Bitcoin, how it works on a technological perspective. But I think for your own good, you should try to learn as much as you can on your level of expertise, because that's what makes Bitcoin stronger in the long run. The more people who understand Bitcoin on any level, the better it is for both the user and Bitcoin as a whole.
That's a great answer for my colleague, actually. That's a really good way to approach it. Yeah.
Yeah, and because Bitcoin is constantly evolving, and new proposals are surfacing, or new stuff is proposed all the time, and people, you and me, Bitcoin users, need to decide for ourselves whether we think this is a good or a bad idea, whether we want it or not. And we can only do that. We can only improve that process for ourselves by learning more.
But is this feasible? Because for this question, I have two thoughts in mind. One is everyone or most people today are using a car, but almost none of them understand how an engine works. And still, this is totally fine.
Yeah.
And so how is Bitcoin different from that?
That's a nice example, because I think to use the car in a safe way, you need to learn a lot about the car, how the brakes work, how to shift gears, how to securely cross a crossing with your car, how to make a drive-by, or so there's a lot about the car that you take for granted. That is actually a lot of knowledge that you have about cars without actually knowing much about cars. So it's the same with Bitcoin. You need to learn how to use Bitcoin safely in order to use Bitcoin in a safe way.
That's an interesting thought. The parallel for a driver's license would be a self-custody license or something, where you at least took some tests and learned some things about how to do self-custody and make sure that you understand probably how to handle your keys and stuff before. I mean, you don't need permission, but it's maybe recommended once you come of age, then you need to know how to do self-custody or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's up to your parents to teach you this basic knowledge about life, how to store value safely, for example, or how to not bully other kids, and just stuff you need to know in life.
I think that's a good point, right? So I think you need to understand how to use Bitcoin, just as you need to understand how to use a car in order to drive it safely, and how to use Bitcoin safely. And I think that's different from understanding the engine of your car, or understanding the engine within Bitcoin, right? How what is a digital signature? What's a hash function? How is proof of work set up, and how does it work? What's the blockchain? But still, I think it's not what I think. It's the question that I currently have is, what I'm observing is that we have a lot of people entering this space who do not care about the technological aspects of Bitcoin. So who do not properly understand what is a hash function, what is a digital signature, what is proof of work. But I mean, I don't want them, I don't want to tell them, no, you don't understand Bitcoin, you're not a real Bitcoiner. That's not what I'm talking about. But they have this a different approach. They come from a philosophical or economical perspective, and it's enough for them. Bitcoin is sufficient for them. But I'm not sure if at this point in time, but while we're very early, that I think we need more people who have a good technical understanding of how Bitcoin works and what it does. Would you agree, or do you think, okay, there is just maybe two kinds of people, one is technical and the others are just Bitcoiners for the economical sake or for the philosophical sake?
I think we need at least a threshold of technically knowledgeable people who understand the very basic or the, under the hood stuff. But maybe, just maybe, there is a limit to how many such people we need. I don't know that, but as of now, I just think that we need more. Or rather, I think more people knowing this stuff would help Bitcoin in the long run. But in the far future, maybe we have enough people understanding this for Bitcoin to be enough resilient against bullshit attacks, FUD and stuff.
If it's not that one-dimensional, but you have many different dimensions that you need to be skilled in, or that people need to be skilled in, how is this balanced? How do you, or do we actually make sure, or does the market make sure that we have enough of all the people? But how will this look like?
I don't know. I think people will learn the stuff that they care about. Of course, a miner will, of course, learn more about mining than about Lightning Network, or a guy selling apples would probably learn more about how to receive Bitcoins through Lightning than about proof of work, for example. And so, yes, as you say, it's a multidimensional system, or there are so many dimensions, and no one can be expected to go along all of these dimensions. So you have to pick a few dimensions that you learn that you care about.
I'm really thinking if we really need to change anything, I think it's a really natural effect that people come into the space. And as you now said, there will be people that join it because they sell apples. And there will be people like we had in our call once, this blockchain Kette, who said he went into Bitcoin via mining. And this was totally strange for us to understand. But yeah, this was the first thing he did with Bitcoin and nothing else, actually. And I think this is a natural way of growing. And I don't know if we need to steer that somehow, or of course we need more technicians always who understand it deeply. But I think this will come. This will in due course. This is a natural thing that develops. This is my take on it.
You can't plan for it. You can express what you think is needed and so on, but you can't expect anyone to just obey you. So it's fascinating with open source in that way, that it is what it is, and you can't do much about it except do the work yourself.
But won't this lead to some kind of centralization? Because like today we have the central bankers who supposedly understand the way the money works, or at least the fiat money, or with all the prejudices around it. But so you have some technocratic elite class who understands some part of it, and not everyone does. So how do we prevent something like this from happening? How do we prevent kind of the knowledge centralization of Bitcoin?
Yeah. I think that's, writing a book is one way to do it, for example, or just making podcasts like yourselves. There is so much material out there, and this information is freely available to anyone. And I think that's trying to understand how banking works would probably. That's much harder because the information is sealed in silos in different, maybe in universities or at the banks themselves, and things aren't always disclosed. So banks are anything but open source, and central banks as well.
Speaking about writing a book, Bitcoin has the potential to change people's worldview, even people's life. Did it change you to write this in-depth book on Bitcoin?
It did. I got more humble by it. When I started writing the book, I didn't know everything in the book, of course. So I had to learn a lot. And in that process, I got to talk to people online who knew much more than me. And it was a great experience. So maybe I'm more humble today. I was a bit cocky before, I know this Bitcoin stuff, I can do this. But it's really, I'm a bit softer about it today. Yeah.
Great answer.
Yeah, great. I would like to ask my colleagues here in the call or in this recording, what's their maybe favorite part or their takeaway after reading this book. So I don't know who wants to start. So what left the most impression on you? Maybe Calso, do you want to start?
Maybe can I just ask?
Sure.
Not to taking the hosting away from you, but I'm very interested to hear about your backgrounds before you start talking about how your reading experience was. Mm-hmm. So if you could just take a few words about the background as well, your background.
Yeah, then I might start as Jan Paul asked. So my background is a bit technical and economical. So I studied both of it and working for a big company in Germany. And I got into Bitcoin just by, some friends introducing and of course not the Bitcoin, but all the other stuff. And then I learned about it, but I was always curious to find any backdoors, any problems with it. I think, we just recently had a podcast with a block trainer where he mentioned that we Bitcoiner always try to find the problem with Bitcoin, but we can't. So this is maybe also comes into your, this humbling phase that you always want to try to learn more about it, and you only learn that you don't know about it as much. So then reading that book or getting it introduced by a friend, actually, Jana, once again, shout out to you. You introduced a couple of us to this book, and you mentioned that it is a good way to go through the surface actually via chapter with this cookie system, and then into the deep as much as you would like to, but you don't have to. And that would also be my takeaway from the book or how you wrote it. I think you made a very good job to starting very easy each chapter, not just the beginning. And you made it easier for someone with the not so big or not so technical background to still get it somehow, even though in some chapters, I definitely had to step out understanding wise, but this was a good way to cluster it a bit for myself. So this was one thing I would take away from it.
Right. Who wants to go next? Martin, maybe?
Yeah. So I'm coming from I've been doing 13 years of IT project management with focus on innovation management in a big German company. And so looking for disruptive innovations has been my day-to-day business. And then in 2021, actually, I stumbled upon Bitcoin, and I knew Calso from before, and I knew that he was doing something with crypto. So I talked to him, and we had like a very intense period of at least 4 weeks or so where we have been like, I don't know, a young couple having phone calls of 2 hours a day or so just to talk about Bitcoin.
I miss those times.
Yes.
So romantic.
Yes, it's Bitcoin romance. Gives the term romance another. Anyway, and then started going to the meetups on recommendation of him. Very early met Jan Paul there. We talked about this, and we came up because I'm in a book club, in a like regular book club, not Bitcoin book club. And we came about this idea. I think you said something like you wanted to read through one of the more complex books and chapter by chapter. And I had the idea of the book club, and then we combined this. And this is kind of how, and you together with Thorsten were already in the founding process of founding Nodesignal. And so the combination of the book club and Nodesignal kind of came together so that we are now the 5 people that we are, kind of by the book club of this book. And the whole thing kind of, it led for me to quickly saying, okay, this is the thing that I want to spend way more time and devote more of my work to it. And so after like 2.5 months of being into Bitcoin, I quit my job and founded a Bitcoin consultancy agency with the main goal to say, I don't want us to miss the Bitcoinization like we did with the digitalization. And we started to consult companies for how to adopt Bitcoin, how to use it, how to use this mainly as a technical tool. And the book has helped me immensely in many ways through this.
Any key learning, maybe? Anything that you took away that, left the impression on you?
I think the most interesting parts were quite early for me. One was I didn't understand this whole concept of the nonce in the proof of work. And it made so much sense. And this is something I really understood from there. And afterwards explained to many people that understood proof of work on a rough basis, but never understanding what the nonce actually is doing. And that was super helpful. And the other thing that comes back at the moment is the whole topic of hierarchically, deterministically wallets, because this is the whole idea of having just one single thing, securing everything, but still being invisible to all the single elements that use part of it. Super interesting. And I'm currently reading into how slash tags by synonym work. And this is where it all comes back to how cool the system is and how much more this goes about how way beyond this whole topic of seeds that you can easily memorize go to actually forming not just your financial identity, but forming your whole digital identity. And that's still flashy to me.
Okay, great. Chris, what do you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, well, I have a background in life science, somewhere between medicine, biology, and physics. But I moved into the direction of measurement systems like 10 to 15 years ago. So I have a little technical background, self-taught technical background, but I'm not a coder at all. I can write some MATLAB scripts, but that's it. And so I would have never read the book on my own, to be honest. But it was very rewarding to read the book because it really helped me to understand very underlying principles of Bitcoin. And very impressive to me was the chapter on wallets and HD wallets. That was, wow. When I read that, I was like, wow, who invented this? This is amazing. This is
Peter Wulle.
Really understand. Peter Wulle. And it's amazing how you can really hold your own keys and you can really hold the value that's connected to Bitcoin. I was really amazed by that chapter. It was for me was like an eye-opening moment to read that and to discuss it with the guys here in the book club.
Great.
Wow.
All right. Yeah. So I have studied philosophy and mathematics, but that's a few years back now. And after my studies, I started to work in business consulting. So yeah, classic business consultant for many years. Yeah, there's nothing much interesting about my job. I have no technical background, as you can guess. I mean, I did study mathematics, but I never got to the part where we started coding. It was more on a theoretical level. And yeah, in philosophy, you don't need any coding experience. Lucky for me. Yeah, I've been in Bitcoin for quite some time now, for a few years now. But yeah, as most of us or some of us did, I came, for the number go up, came for the money, and then sometimes stayed for the cause. And yeah, I always wanted to dig deeper into the technological aspects of Bitcoin, but never really found a way there. I was really happy when you published the book. I remember I bought the book. I still have the English first edition here, and I read it until, I don't know, the first 150 pages maybe, but then I was just lost. So I was very, very happy when we had the idea to start the book club and start reading it again. What I liked very much was this was the first time I understood what the script language does, or what script does in Bitcoin. So what the operators are and how they work and what a stack is. That was kind of interesting. And what really helped me was the chapter on SegWit. That was the first time I actually understood the problem, what is transaction malleability. and the upgrades topic. I think that's the last chapter, right? That was completely new to me. I had no idea how upgrading actually works. And I think there are still some chapters to be written, right? Because, for example, speedy trial isn't in the scope of your book, right? That was introduced later, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's more or less a combination of other upgrade mechanisms. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So while we're on that topic, do you have any plans to write maybe a second edition of your book or to extend your book?
There is no plans currently. But, I mean, as you say, there is stuff to be covered yet. Taproot is one such thing. It's the new latest and greatest upgrade to Bitcoin that's been around for a year now or something like that. And that's a whole new, field of study. It would probably take a few chapters for Taproot only. And of course, the discussion about upgrade mechanisms keep going on. And there's also stuff that I would like to take out of the book. For example, bloom filters. I think it has played out its role a little bit. Bloom filter. I think I talk about bloom filters in chapter 6, which is a way for a wallet to subscribe to blockchain data without having to follow the full blockchain.
I think we spent some time discussing and understanding that one, the bloom filters, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Another beauty of this system. This was well explained, but it took some time to understand it still.
Yeah, it's quite hard, and it's not wasted knowledge. I mean, if you have read about it and understood bloom filters, you have understood a lot about hash functions and stuff. No, bloom filter isn't used that much anymore. It's been replaced by dedicated servers that you use on top of your node. So you have your full node, and then you have a server on top of that, for example, an Electrum server. And then you have an Electrum wallet connecting to that Electrum server, instead of the wallet connecting to your node directly. So because there were some privacy issues with bloom filters.
Okay, maybe that's interesting to our listeners, because we actually discussed bloom filters extensively in our book club. So you said there were some privacy implications. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the idea with bloom filters was that users could connect to any node on the network, and subscribe to data by submitting a filter to the node. And then the node will use this filter to decide what data to send to the wallet, the mobile wallet, for example. But this filter reveals stuff about your public keys or your addresses that you use. So, and it's quite trivial to actually figure out a wallet's full set of addresses, mm-hmm. which at least the ones that are generated so far, of course. So it's no good for public use in that way, but you could still use it to connect to your own node at home and trust that, because I mean, you don't need privacy with your own node. But the use case that was the idea from the beginning, that you could just connect to any node out there, is actually quite dangerous and shouldn't be promoted in any way.
Dangerous in the sense of leaking private information, like
exactly.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, but not dangerous keys, for your funds, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Your keys are safe, but your privacy is not.
Yeah. All right. Great.
So another reason to run your own node, just to print.
Yes.
Always. Yes. Yeah. But there is some concept now to solve it, or is it already introduced? What's the status? When you say you would.
Are you talking about block filters? Maybe there's this other concept where you instead of the wallet sending a filter to the node, mm-hmm. the node will instead create a filter for each block, and send that block to the wallet. Not the block filter to the wallet. And the wallet will figure out if this block is interesting for me or not. And if the wallet decides that the block is interesting, it will download the full block from the node, or any node for that matter. And that improves privacy quite a bit. You can only say that, okay, this wallet probably has an address that is related to this block somehow. But there are so many addresses in there, so it's really hard to know which address. So that and also if you download the block filter from one node and you download the block from another node, that further increases your privacy.
Interesting. Yeah, the difficulty is probably that, especially with Bitcoin evolving that fast, overall, it's difficult to write books, and because they're basically outdated. I mean, you said 2.5 years. If I just think about all the things that happened since I started my Bitcoin journey, which is just a little bit over a year ago, I mean, it's just an amazing mass. And I guess there's my feeling somehow is there is some things that kind of settles at the bottom and that kind of becomes more stable, and some things that are faster changing and the newer things are faster changing. But it kind of leaves you to only being able to writing books about the old stuff, and the new stuff is changing too fast.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when Andreas Antonopoulos wrote his book on Bitcoin, that was very early. So things changed for him a lot more than it changed when I wrote a book. But also the problem there was that he used a lot of code libraries in his examples. So he used code and a little bit of screenshots from whatever wallet was available at that time. And that, of course, gets stale quite fast. So he acknowledged that problem for him. And I didn't want to fall into that trap. So that's part of why I don't have any code or any reference to specific wallets apart from Bitcoin Core. And that has actually helped keep the book up to date, or rather not outdated. I have some if you will, code in it where I explain how to run your own full node, and I do that on a Linux command line in the book. And I kind of regret that a little bit, because that is already outdated. You can't just follow that recipe anymore, because that process has changed a little bit here and there. And even if it still works, the output doesn't look exactly as it did, and so on. So that was mostly a result of, the publisher wanted some coding examples in the book. And I said I didn't want it because it changes all the time. And they persisted, and so we kind of agreed on, okay, let's help the reader set up his own full node, because that's the least volatile thing I could think of. But it's not. It didn't work out so well in the end.
Yeah,
but you should at least give you an idea of how it looks, what the steps are.
I'm not sure how to segue now into my next question, but I wanted to ask it, and I think my colleagues here also are interested in your take. When we read your book, especially towards the end, where you discussed SegWit and upgrade mechanisms, you wrote the book, or you published it in 2019, and as you told us, it was a whole process, took you maybe 2 years of writing and editing. And so you are very close to the chapter in Bitcoin history, which is now labeled as the block size wars. And our impression was that you took a very, let's say, distanced stance on the whole discussion. So maybe can you tell us a little bit about your own experience? I guess you were very close to the discussions taking place in 2017, and which impact it had on you writing Grokking Bitcoin.
Yeah, that was interesting times, really, the block size wars. A lot of things happened there, and I didn't want to write into the face of the reader what to think about it, or what is right and what is wrong. But maybe my own stance shines through a little bit anyway. But I tried to stay neutral on it. But what really came out of the block size wars is the gist of chapter 11, how upgrade mechanisms work, how they used to work, or how they work now. Because the block size wars started a very, very important discussion on upgrade. How how do we form consensus on Bitcoin in the future? How do we stay on a single blockchain? So I think the block size wars was an important milestone. And it actually showed that the users are in charge of the blockchain, not the miners. So it was a great learning experience for very, very many Bitcoiners out there.
Oh, yes.
I hope that the chapter 11 is pretty clear on that, that it's the users who actually decide in the end what goes into the blockchain or not.
I have this quote that I wrote in our document here, and I really like it. It's super. We pay miners to perform correct, honest transaction confirmations. We don't pay them to decide the rules. We pay them to follow the rules. The rules are decided collectively by everyone, you and me, by running our Bitcoin software of choice. I like that so much.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that as well, to be honest. It sums up that chapter very well. And it sums up the whole book quite well, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, great. I think we found a great point to end the conversation here. So I'd like to say thank you very much, Kalle, for joining us for the last chapter of reading Grokking Bitcoin in the book club of Nodesignal. Kalle, where can our listeners find you? Maybe on Twitter or someplace else?
Yeah, I am on Twitter, but I'm a little bit less active there now, but it's at Kalle Rosenbaum on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And I'm also on Mastodon, which is kalle@bitcoinhackers.org.
Okay. We'll put both these links in our show notes of this recording. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good night and focus on the signal, not on the noise. See you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.